the stray dog who became a war hero and changed history forever. The story opens on a lonely stray dog wandering the city streets. He hasn't eaten in days, scavenging for scraps, his ribs showing beneath a thin coat. One afternoon, the mouth-watering smell from a tiny chicken shop lures him closer. Desperate, he snatches a bone and bolts, but crashes straight into a man. The bone slips from his jaws and vanishes in the chaos of the crowd. Defeated, he lowers his head, eyes heavy with hunger and sadness. Just then, a column of soldiers marches past. Among them is a young recruit named Robert. Spotting the trembling dog, Robert smiles warmly and tosses him a biscuit. The dog's tail begins to wag. For the first time in forever, he feels hope. From that moment on, he shadows Robert everywhere he goes. Soon, the narrator tells us the world is at war, World War I. French and British troops fight fiercely against the Germans, and now America is joining the cause. Across the country, young men train day and night preparing for the battlefield. Following Robert's scent, the little dog sneaks through fences and alleys until he reaches the training camp. While Robert heads inside with his unit, the dog squeezes through a broken wall and into the kitchen, drawn once again by the smell of food. Before he can steal a bite, the furious cook spots him and chases him out. As he flees, the dog bumps right into Robert again. Seeing him makes his tail wag even faster. Robert laughs softly, explaining he's out of biscuits. But the dog doesn't care. He just wants to stay near him. During a drill, a senior officer notices the dog trotting beside the men and, to everyone's surprise, isn't angry. He orders Robert to make sure the mutt gets fed after training. That evening, Robert sneaks him into the canteen and shares his meal. His friends warn him the colonel would throw them both out if he finds a stray in camp. But the next morning, while Robert trains, the dog runs proudly beside the soldiers, unfazed by gunfire, quick to understand gestures. It's clear he isn't just any street dog, he's special. That night, as Robert pets him by the campfire, he decides on a name, Stubby. From then on, he starts teaching him simple commands. The very next day, the colonel arrives for inspection. Stubby watches every officer salute and copies them perfectly, raising his paw like a soldier. Laughter ripples through the ranks, and the colonel himself chuckles, allowing the dog to stay. From that day forward, Stubby becomes the camp's mascot, learning routines, following orders, and stealing everyone's heart. Then comes the day they've all been preparing for, their deployment to the front lines. The unit, known as the Yankee Division, is bound for Europe. Before departure, the colonel wishes them luck and instructs that Stubby remain behind to help train new recruits. Robert's heart sinks. He pins a small badge to Stubby's collar and asks the cook to take care of him. Stubby wags his tail proudly, but when the soldiers board the train, he refuses to stay. Breaking free from his leash, Stubby races through the smoke and noise, following Robert's scent all the way to the platform. He slips into a cargo car, hidden among supplies, and when the train reaches the harbor, he sneaks inside a wooden crate, loaded onto Robert's ship. That night, under the quiet hum of the ocean, Stubby climbs out of the crate and begins searching the deck. Sniffing every corridor, he finally finds Robert. Robert freezes in shock while his friend Olson whispers, "If the general finds him, we're done for." They scramble to hide the dog, but Stubby runs right into the general himself. The soldiers snap to attention, saluting, and Stubby mimics them again, paw raised smartly. Then he spots the general's cane on the ground, picks it up gently, and hands it back. The general stares in disbelief. This dog isn't just clever, he's disciplined. Impressed, he orders the captain to officially enlist him in Robert's unit. And just like that, a stray street dog becomes Private Stubby, member of the U.S. Army. Together, Stubby and Robert sail to France, where the British and French are barely holding back the German onslaught. During a vicious bombardment, dozens of soldiers are buried alive under rubble. Without hesitation, Stubby dives into the wreckage, barking, digging, clawing through debris. Thanks to him, several men are rescued alive. The troops cheer, hailing Stubby as a hero. Later, Robert befriends a French soldier named Gaston. The two quickly form a bond, and along with Stubby, begin patrolling together. On one mission, they discover the Germans preparing a massive poison gas attack. Racing back to warn their camp, a sniper takes aim at Robert. But Stubby leaps, knocking him aside just as the bullet whizzes past. Once again, he saves his best friend's life. Robert shows Stubby a gas mask and gestures for him to alert the others. Stubby instantly understands. He sprints through the fields toward the camp, grabs a gas mask with his teeth, and barks furiously. The soldiers grasp his warning, pulling on their masks just seconds before green clouds of toxic gas roll in. But a nearby village lies directly in the gas's path. Stubby doesn't stop. He races toward the town, barking and warning villagers to shut doors and windows. Moments later, Robert and Gaston arrive, pulling him inside and covering his snout with a cloth. When the air finally clears, the villagers emerge to find the little dog who saved them all. From that day forward, Stubby isn't just a mascot, he's a legend. Back at camp, the captain reports a missing soldier. While others search hopelessly, Stubby follows the scent through shell fire and smoke until he locates the wounded man trapped beneath debris. Guided by his barks, rescuers reach the soldier in time. Once again, Stubby proves his courage. Before long, Robert's division receives new orders to move deeper into the front. A kind woman from the village gifts Stubby a handmade jacket, and Gaston gives him a special gas mask of his own. After heartfelt farewells, they march onward. At their new post, the battles grow fiercer. Stubby rushes through chaos, helping pull wounded men to safety, and even tricks a group of German soldiers into following him straight into an American ambush. But one day during a firefight, he spots a live grenade near a soldier and darts toward it. The explosion rocks the trench. Stubby is thrown aside, wounded and unconscious. Robert scoops him up, rushing to the medics. The doctor manages to save him, but orders that Stubby be sent to a military hospital to recover. As the ambulance drives away, Robert watches in silence, his closest companion gone. Time passes. Without Stubby by his side, the battlefield feels emptier than ever. Around this time, Robert's French comrade Gaston receives orders to return to his own unit. Their farewell is quiet but heartfelt. A rare moment of humanity in the middle of war. Now truly alone, Robert spends his nights writing letters to his sister, pouring out his fears and the ache of separation. The constant tension, grief, and exhaustion soon make him ill. When the medic examines him, he realizes Robert's condition is serious. If his spirit doesn't recover, his body might not either. Meanwhile, far away in a distant city, Stubby lies in a military hospital. His paw wound hasn't fully healed, but his restless heart won't let him stay still. Every bark and every whimper carries the same thought: find Robert. One morning, ignoring the pain, Stubby limps out through an open gate. His journey back begins. Miles of mud, rain, and shell-torn roads. He pushes on, even when his legs give out, dragging himself back up again, driven by loyalty stronger than steel. After days of struggle, Stubby finally reaches Robert's camp. The soldiers can hardly believe their eyes. Robert, pale and weak, sees his old friend and bursts into tears. Stubby jumps into his arms, tail wagging wildly. That night, Robert's fever breaks. The bond between man and dog heals him faster than any medicine. Within days, he's back on his feet, ready to face the world again. During their next leave, Robert, Stubby, and a few close friends travel to Paris. For the first time in months, they laugh. They stroll through the lively streets, eat fresh bread, and watch as strangers gather just to greet Stubby. The famous war dog everyone's heard about. Cameras flash. Children run to pet him. He's not just a soldier's companion anymore. He's a symbol of courage, known around the world. Soon, Stubby's bravery earns him another mission. When a suspicious man tries to sneak into camp, Stubby's keen nose catches him. The man is captured. A German spy. Word spreads fast. The general himself promotes Stubby, granting him the rank of sergeant. Robert, too, earns a promotion for his valor. The once hungry stray has become one of the Army's most respected heroes. Weeks later, Gaston returns, alive and smiling. The reunion between the three friends is pure joy. Together, they take a photograph, Robert, Gaston, and Sergeant Stubby, a picture that will soon appear in newspapers across the United States. Stubby has officially become a national hero. As the war nears its end, the American and French armies unite once more for one final push. Together, they launch a massive counteroffensive that forces the Germans into retreat. But when Robert and Gaston reach the enemy's last line, they're stunned by the sight. Enormous bunkers of steel and concrete, nearly impossible to breach. Just then, a messenger rushes in with news that electrifies the camp. The war is almost over. A ceasefire will be declared tomorrow at exactly 11 o'clock. The Great War, at last, is ending. That night, the soldiers celebrate quietly, too exhausted for cheers but full of relief. After years of horror, they can finally dream of home. But at dawn, before the ceasefire takes effect, chaos erupts once more. German forces launch one final surprise attack. Gunfire thunders. Explosions shake the earth. Smoke fills the sky. In the middle of the battle, Robert spots Gaston running ahead alone. Without hesitation, he and Stubby sprint after him. A few moments later, Robert sees two German soldiers cornering his friend. He raises his weapon to help. But then the sound of a horn echoes through the field. The ceasefire has begun. The guns fall silent. The German soldiers freeze, then slowly drop their rifles and raise their hands in surrender. Robert glances at his watch. It's exactly 11. The war is over. He kneels beside Stubby, tears streaming down his face as the little dog wags his tail, eyes bright with joy. Together, they've survived the impossible. Yet before returning home, Robert stays behind to search for the wounded. Stubby leads him through the ruins, sniffing through the debris until he stops at something on the ground. A soldier's hat. Robert recognizes it instantly. It belongs to one of his fallen brothers. He drops to his knees, silent and grieving, as the wind carries the sound of distant bells. Later, Robert and Gaston bury their friend, giving him one final salute. Then, with Stubby and the remaining officers, they begin the long journey home. When their ship finally reaches the harbor, the sight waiting for them is overwhelming. Flags waving, a band playing, crowds cheering, not just for the soldiers, but for the little dog walking proudly at Robert's side. Cameras flash as Stubby steps onto American soil, wearing his tiny jacket covered in medals. He's no longer a stray, no longer forgotten. He's a decorated war hero, a legend of loyalty and courage. A photographer captures the moment, a picture that will circle the globe, because this isn't fiction. Stubby's story is real. He served his country in 17 battles, saved countless lives, and became a symbol of hope that still inspires generations. He wasn't just a dog. He was a soldier, a friend, a hero. Stubby's journey reminds us that true courage can come in any form, sometimes even on 4 legs. He wasn't born for war, but when the world needed him most, he stood tall, brave, and unbreakable. More than 100 years later, Sergeant Stubby remains a timeless symbol of loyalty, sacrifice, and the unshakable human spirit. If his story touched your heart, if it reminded you what real bravery looks like, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because this is just one of the many untold stories of heroes who changed the world, one heartbeat at a time.